Oh, Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a situation in this country. The Supreme Court has given the supreme evil white man immunity. We'll discuss what it means, and will this throw us into Civil War II? Also, should we really replace Joe Biden at the top of the ticket? I'll discuss why we can't and why we shouldn't. Last but definitely not least, have y'all checked out Project 2025? For those of you that watched the BET Awards, Taraji P. Henson said you need to check it out. Well, if you haven't, we're going to check it out here, and we're going to tell you what all this means for Black Americans and their politics. It all starts right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that full. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
What's going on, everybody? You in the building with the all knowing, all loving, all feeling, all seeing, all powerful. Very light thump. Just damn all everything sexy as hell host. It's very sad. This country, hold on, y'all. I got a legend coming in. For those of you that have been with this channel since 2019, you was rocking with me when me and this man was helping y'all get through crisis after crisis after crisis with Donald Trump ass. When the George Floyd thing hit, we was there. When they stormed the damn Capitol, we was there. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you Lamont and the living legend. Larry's in the building. What's up, Larry?
Man, that's a serious intro right there. I hope I can live up to the hype.
When have you not, bro? When have you not? Always, at least on this channel anyway, you always have. So, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Sure to subscribe to Larry's channel. His link is in the description. And for those of you that have been asking me for more financial news, you see that link underneath shoplifegains.com. That is the Life Gains Family Fun Financial channel, where I'll be covering vacation deals you can do with your family, restaurant food reviews, where to invest your money, how to save money, how not to get ripped off. We'll be covering all that down there. And the first video I'm going to put up on this channel, since I'm coming back, is what happened with me and my wife in Jamaica. Okay, I'm going to tell you how much we paid, where you can find good deals, and hopefully the living legend will be back. We just lost him. Having said that, let me shout out everybody that's in the building. Everybody that is in this building. We're thankful. We're grateful. I have to do this kind of content, ladies and gentlemen, because as Larry once told me, and I didn't listen to him, he said, Lamont, you got to feed people the vegetables with the sweets. Basically, he was saying, I need to give y'all information you can use and apply in your day-to-day life beyond just entertaining y'all with my crazy-ass reviews I do. And so that's what
crazy-ass reviews are fun, though.
Yeah, but Larry, they might change people's lives momentarily. It might give them a moment of inspiration. But how about I can inspire people and then allow them to empower themselves by doing things that help change their life, and then they can become a mini Mont and help empower others. I can't do that in an entertainment review, but I can do it through talking politics, through talking finance, and through being just genuinely good with your family. That's what we're going to do. Larry, me and you did politics before I went to Jamaica. I sat here and I told you that Justice Sotomayor gave an interview where she was crying about democracy crumbling in this country. Didn't I tell you I knew what was going to happen with this immunity shit? Didn't I tell you? And so,
yeah,
we're going to break it down, ladies and gentlemen. But first, let us give you the news. Let you see a clip of what happened so me and Larry can break that down. Then we'll jump into the ramifications of what it could mean for future presidents, Trump, and Black people. Here we go.
We know this is a 6-3 ruling written by the Chief Justice that says flatly presidents are immune, absolutely immune for their official acts. That means acts that they take under the arbit of their office as president. But, and here's the big but and why it's important for Donald Trump, they do not have that kind of immunity, as you said, for their unofficial acts. So then what does that mean? What is an unofficial act? And the court, in its opinion, gives some guidance on how the courts can draw those lines between official conduct and unofficial private conduct that a president can be prosecuted for. There's a scathing dissent by Justice Sotomayor, joined by the 2 other liberal justices. This is not an outcome that John Roberts would have preferred, saying that she is now fearing for our democracy. Based on what I'm seeing in Roberts' decision so far, I do not believe right now the court has closed the door off to prosecution of Donald Trump for those unofficial acts, as the lower court had outlined in a separate case. But there is guidance in here, and Major, we're going to have to take some time to look at that.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I give the floor to Larry, and we both are semi-historian. Larry more so than me, but history is one of my favorite subjects. I paid great attention to it. Let's just talk about this thing, because a lot of people who should be watching this type of content, they fall for the banana in the tailpipe of society, meaning that society wants you to forget about what's going on in politics, taxes, business, by having you watch Power, NBA Finals, football, whatever the hell they can do to distract you from getting out and voting. That's what they want to have. Yeah. And the result of that shit is this. Me and Larry talked candidly about how they screwed Barack Obama from picking a judge when we felt like he should have just ramrodded it on in there. What could they do? And I guess what they could have done is besmirched them. But then we get Trump in the office, and it doesn't matter what the hell he does. He is white privilege at its epitome. People will love him no matter what he does. And this Project 2025, which we're going to cover in a minute, has already started. It started right here. This Supreme Court ruled on 4 things besides just the immunity that basically strip Americans of choice, democracy, and the things that they need to uphold democracy. So now, basically what this ruling is saying, it comes down to a lower court to decide what is a presidential act or not. That's what it comes down to, a lower court. And
for now,
with the finagling that lawyers can do, and let's not forget that Trump, on top of the Supreme Court, he enacted some 400 to 500 superior court judges. So he's got the pick of the litter of getting a favorable court. Now, having said that, it's time for the Democrats to act. And you've got to act swiftly, and you've got to do something, because there was a decorum that people thought was in place that would keep folks from doing dastardly things. And Donald Trump not only stretched them, but he broke them bitches in half, and he's now attempting to do that with this Supreme Court immunity. And before I go further, let me pass the peel to my big brother, Larry, to see, what did you think? How did this make you feel to basically hear that this country is about to allow a president to basically be a dictator? And might I say, Larry, this is just another way to keep a white guy in power, considering this country has been around as long as it's been around, and we've only had one black guy who was half white. This is just another way to keep a white guy in power and give that person more dictatorial powers. Tell me where I'm wrong, Larry.
No, you're not wrong, but I'll tell you the thing that bothered me, disturbed me, it scares me, because when you give someone basically absolute power, that, as they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and we've already seen Donald Trump is corrupt. He is about himself. He will help other people if it serves his needs. If it doesn't, he won't. He's not altruistic in any way, shape, or form. And the scary thing is, a lot of these people out there are supporting Donald Trump. A lot of these poor white folks are out there supporting Donald Trump, thinking they're going to be in favor. What they don't realize is that Donald Trump and people like Donald Trump, they don't like them. They don't love them. Donald Trump can get up there and go and say, "Oh, I love you guys. I love the uneducated. I love this. I love that." He does not. If you look at his circle, you're not going to find a bunch of poor, toothless people out there that he brought in from the hinterlands to give them opportunity and jobs. You're not going to find those people working for him because he does not care about them. He doesn't love them. He's not going to foster their success and give them opportunity. He doesn't care about them. He's using them. And they're going to find out soon enough, because when the terrible stuff starts to happen, it's going to happen to them too. And they're going to look around and say, "Wait a minute, why are you treating me the same way that you're treating these niggers and these spics?" That's what they're going to say. They're not going to understand that they are in the same boat as us, because that's what it's going to be. Let's not forget, when this country was founded, and these poor white folks that love to be super Republicans and MAGA, they're always talking about the founding fathers and the Constitution. Let's not forget that back in the day, all white people couldn't vote. Right. It wasn't a thing of, oh, white people vote, but black people couldn't vote. No, it was not all white people could. First of all, no women could vote, period. It didn't matter. Thank you. It didn't matter how rich or poor or how white or influential. It didn't matter. You couldn't vote. And now if you were a white male, you could only vote if you were a land owning white male. If you didn't own land, if you were a sharecropper and you rented your land, or if you were just a hardworking dude that worked at in a sawmill or something, you didn't own your land, you rented from a landlord, you couldn't vote. And there are a lot of people out there who can't vote. Land ownership in this country has become infinitely unobtainable. Yes. It has become the average home price in this country is something like $400,000 and some odd $1,000 now. Most people cannot afford to buy a home. And so all these people out there who are thinking, "Oh, I'm okay, I'm down with them, they're down with me." No, they're not down with you. You're going to be used, and then when it comes down to it, you're going to be cannon fodder. Exactly. But what really scares me about this whole thing, not just the only thing, but one thing that scares me about this is we have seen when presidents and national leaders have been given extreme executive powers, one of the things that they have done is come in and disbanded their Supreme Courts. This has happened repeatedly, where the Supreme Court will say, "Oh, well, they have these expanded powers. They can do this, they can do that." And then when they say, "Great, we have all these powers," and they don't want anybody to put any restraints on those powers, the first thing they do is they come in and they say, "We don't want the court. We don't need the court." And they get rid of them. The court's corrupt. The court's this, the court's that. And they disband the court. And now people are like, "Well, wait a minute. Now what do we do? Who do we turn to?" And and I would not be surprised if Donald Trump did that. What is the court going to say? They've already made this ruling that he could do whatever they want. I mean, in all seriousness, at this point, people keep talking about a civil war and all this stuff. We are going to have to rewrite our Constitution. We're going to have to our country's going to have to end up in a place where our Constitution is rewritten because of what the Supreme Court just did. And the only way I can imagine that we get to that place collectively is post-war. And nobody wants that. Well, exactly. I don't think anybody with a decent heart wants that.
Thank you. Because there are these Trumpanites who are clamoring for that shit, Larry. Them gun-toting guys who, under no circumstance, you better come get my guns. Okay, but we don't give a damn about anybody else's rights that are protected. We don't give a damn about that. They want a civil war. And these are the same people saying that the South shall rise and all that. Get their ass kicked again. And then we're going to be forced in a situation into which we'll have to write a constitution. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't converse with Larry before we did this video. And in the title of my video, I said, will this lead to a civil war too? This is going down the road of a civil war too. Because what the Republicans have done for years is try to divide people, not only by race. Race is one of the methods, but class too. They get dumb ass redneck white people, and not all y'all. I'm not saying all y'all because all y'all ain't like that. I'm stereotyping. They get these people to believe in God. They get these people to believe they shouldn't get a handout. While behind closed doors, these MFers don't believe in no God. They saying GD left and right, and they sure as hell ain't putting policies in place to help y'all. They using y'all, as my main man Larry said, using you. And if something is not done about this, the powers of the opposing party, the Democrats, is just going to be shifted down lower and lower and lower. For one, when Joe Manchin gets out of office, Larry, guess what? It's going to be hard as hell for the Democrats to get more than 50 Senate seats. It's going to be hard as hell.
Yeah, they're gonna have to pull a seat from somewhere. I don't know where.
Or if, let's just say that they continue to make it 50-50, get the House, and they get the presidency. You get one filibuster a year. And at this point in time, Larry, I'm sorry. If it is at all possible to filibuster to expand the Supreme Court, Larry, by all means, we have got to do that. If Joe Biden wins, it has got to be done because this court has shown you that they're corrupt. And I know you're saying it's going to set a bad precedence and all that. But Larry, precedents at this point, it's out the window. It really is.
I mean, at this point, I mean, what do you expand it to? Do you expand it enough that you end up with a majority? I mean, do you say, okay, we're going to add 3 more seats?
Yes.
I mean, what are we at now?
We're at 9 now. We're at 9.
So what? We're going to add, we can't add, we have to add what? 4 more seats? Because if you add, well, let's see, if you had 6 more, if you had 3 more seats, we end up with what? 12? We end up with a 6-6 split. So we're going to have to add either 2 or 4.
4.
If we add 4 and he names them all, I mean, I think, eventually you end up in an arms race where, you know, you end up with 27 seats down the line somewhere. I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think that we have to figure it. There has to be something to stabilize things. I think the problem is that we're heading into a place where if Donald Trump wins, we will have a president that will have no restraints on his power.
0.
And we know that he's good at doing one thing, which is going into courts and delaying everything. So anytime someone says this is not right, this is illegal, and they want to challenge it, he's very good at strategizing with his lawyers to delay, so that they're basically, as MLK said, justice delayed is no justice. Whatever the exact saying is, it's like, do you have no, you know, if you don't have, if it's delayed, you don't get justice.
No.
And so, you know, this is what scares me, is that, and we have seen this happen in other countries. This is, and I know this is the thing that bothers me too, is that for years and years and years, they have dumbed down our kids in the schools. They have dialed back the amount of history they learn, the amount of civics they learn. They have made a point to dumb down people so they don't understand global politics. And oftentimes, if you talk to people from other countries, one of the reasons why they laugh and mock Americans is because the average American does not understand even the slightest bit about geopolitics or anything. And so when you look at the world, you can see this very thing happening over and over and over and over and over again. And what happens is it leads to a place where you start to see political assassinations. You start to see
Right.
military coups, because if you end up in a country where your elections don't matter. Look at Russia. Their elections don't matter. They
Not
can
at
say
all.
they're having democratic elections, but they don't matter, because if you have a political party where the president can basically imprison the other opposition leaders, or they can poison them or kill them or shoot down their planes or whatever else, if you can do all of that and there's no consequences, eventually the only way to get rid of that person is by an assassination or a coup. And I don't think anybody wants to see what could happen with a coup I am no fan of Donald Trump. But I do not want to see the man assassinated, because I think it's bad for our country. But I think I think that is the route that we are heading towards. I think that is the road that we're going down if we keep going down this road. And it's scary, because when you think about all the stuff that could happen, as Black people, we understand what it's like to have rights and then have those rights stripped away. Because people, not like I was alive back then, but if people don't know their history, there was a time after the Civil War where Black people were doing very well for themselves. They had jobs. They were politically active. There were a number of people that were elected to Congress and the Senate. They had control over local legislatures. They had control over local city
Talk
politics.
About it, Larry. We had Black Wall Streets pretty much in every state,
all over. And then white people started doing stuff like having like little mini coups in different cities where they would go in and kill everybody and take over the local politics. Or they would just simply say, no, Black people can't vote anymore, and so Black people aren't getting elected. I mean,
and then on top of that, Larry, they would go and destroy these cities, kill people, burn them up, and the federal government knew it, and there was never any justice served for hardly any of these places.
And that's my point, is that if you basically can just say, I am saying by executive order that Black people can't vote.
Right.
Well, if your only option is to say, well, I'm going through the courts, I'm going to have to go through the courts, and the courts are saying, well, you're going to have this long process of going through there, and then in the very end they say, well, it was done as an official act, so it's not illegal. There's nothing we can really do about it. Then you're just stuck in this place. Black people can't vote. What if he decides he wants to reinstitute slavery? What if he wants to say women can't vote and women are basically property of their husbands again? What if they try and say, I mean, there were all kinds of screwed up laws. What if they try and say there's no such thing as rape inside of marriage? Women don't have the right to not consent to a husband. I mean, these are things that existed in our country not long ago at all.
They just got rid of that in North Carolina 6 years ago. So literally, if Crystal said, Lamont, I don't feel like messing around with you, my husband, tonight, and I said, F that, you getting bent over, she couldn't charge me for rape 6 years ago. Nothing.
You know, what if they decide to say, you know what? We are federally, sodomy is illegal. You can't commit sodomy. And people think, oh, well, I don't really care. I'm not gay. Well, guess what? Sodomy is not just for gay people. Sodomy is considered oral sex, given fellatio, cunnilingus. It could mean anal sex. It can mean a number of different things. There's all kinds of things that people do in the bedroom regularly that you won't be able to do legally. There's all kinds of ways that they can get all up in your grill and let's not forget, there are people on the right, and I am a Christian man, but there are people on the right who are hardcore Christian fundamentalists that want to dictate how you live your life.
Yeah.
And they want to be the ones telling the president, you want us to help you maintain power. This is what we want. And
we've seen it in states already. They just passed the bill that says 10 commandments got to be up in the public schools.
Right. And so this is the thing. When you don't have any recourse, when the president can say, do this, do that, and there's no recourse because he is able to do whatever he wants. I mean, the amount of chaos, confusion, heartache, and criminality that can happen in this country it's mind-boggling how much it can happen and how quickly. I would say hold on, because it's going to be a very, very uncomfortable, bumpy ride for a lot of people. And a lot of those white folks out there who think they're safe, I would say buckle up, because you're going to get a rude awakening. Black people have learned how to deal with the hardships of America for the last couple hundred years. It has been passed down genetically to us just about of how to deal with it. You guys have no clue how bad it can be.
And Larry, not only are we looking at a dictatorship, but these folks don't understand we're looking at a plutocracy too. For those that don't know what plutocracy means, a country in which the rich class pretty much make all the rules for the country. There is no voice for the middle class. There is no voice for the poor man. It is all ran and orchestrated by rich people running through a dictator. Speaking of that, Larry, let me get us to the next subject that kind of it's on the same subject, and let me shout this sister out too. Ambi Bambi, new member to the channel. Shout out to you, sister. We appreciate you having us. Go ahead, Larry.
I just want to say one other thing that I think it's important to mention about this that I haven't heard really many people talk about just yet is that one reason why America is what it is, and one reason why we have the quality of life that we have, even the poorest people in this country, with the exception of the homeless, but even the people who are on the lowest rung of the totem pole have a quality of life that is considerably better than people in other countries. And one of the reasons why we have this quality of life is because the American dollar is the default world currency. When people do exchanges in this country, a good number of countries peg their currency to our dollar. And there are countries like China and Russia and some others that are actually trying to move away from that. They want to create a separate currency that can be used in lieu of the American dollar. Because in some countries, if you go and you buy oil, or you go buy steel or iron ore or other natural resources, some of these countries are saying we only want to be paid in US dollars, which means it doesn't matter if you're in China or if you're in Russia or in Korea or Uzbekistan or Turks and Caicos. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to convert your dollars, your currency, into US dollars so that you can pay for this other thing. And that's one of the reasons why we have a standard of living the way that we do. But when we have instability and chaos in this country, and people start to say, wait a minute, the American dollar is not the stable default world currency that it once was. My dollar, if the US dollar may not be as valuable as it once was, they're going to start to say, maybe we should start looking at the euro, or maybe we should start looking at the yuan from China. Or maybe we should start looking at some new currency, the yen or whatever it is. And when that happens, and a lot of the Republicans are isolationists. A lot of them are saying, let that happen. We don't care. Let it happen. They don't understand how interconnected our world is now.
I'm going to tell you something, man. What Larry is saying, he speaks the truth. Like I said, I'm going to have that video up for you guys about me and my wife in Jamaica, how to get it on a cheap and all that. And Larry, they've got their own currency there. But guess what they prefer?
Dollars.
American dollars. And the other thing that I learned that you just mentioned, their poor is worse off there than they are here.
Oh, definitely.
And the other thing I learned, which I already knew this, but countries that want to undermine us and want to supersede the dollar, guess what they're going to, Larry? Well, we've talked about they're going to cryptocurrency. They're going to digital currency.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Crypto has its own set of concerns, but at the same time, it is it is a method of being able to move money around in a way that has never been afforded to people in the past. And if you are someone, I mean, just imagine if you're Jack Ma. I mean, that's one of the reasons why China just straight up outlawed crypto. I mean, for a long time, people don't know the biggest crypto farms, or whatever they call them, the server farms for crypto, were in China until they outlawed it, because they realized that crypto was undermining their authority. Because if you're someone, you can't say to someone like Jack Ma or one of the other guys that owns one of these other huge Chinese companies, if you don't do what we say, we're going to take your money away. And they're like, how are you going to take my money away when it's locked up in crypto somewhere and you don't have access to it? You know?
Right. Exactly.
So what do? They just make it illegal. You can't own crypto if you're in China. You know? That's one way to do it.
Hold the foot, Larry. Hold the foot, because we got to stick with your favorite president, Trump. And I'm lying, y'all. I'm being facetious. That's not his favorite president. Okay. So we talked about when he got those 34 felonies, would he do any jail time? Larry, I feel like I'll be foretelling of so many things: TV shows, stock market, politics. We sat here, Larry, and we said the fly in the ointment could be this immunity ruling. And guess what, Larry? No less than 12 hours. He's already trying to use that to get out of these felonies. Take a listen to this.
It took mere hours after the Supreme Court handed down its bombshell ruling granting Trump partial immunity for criminal acts committed in office for him to seek to overturn his Manhattan conviction, citing this exact Supreme Court decision. Donald Trump is now seeking to throw out his conviction and postpone his sentencing, which is coming up on July 11th, citing now that the immunity granted to him by the Supreme Court absolves him of culpability for the 34 felony counts on which he was convicted. In terms of whether this gamble is going to work, it's anyone's guess. On one hand, the Manhattan case focuses on acts that Trump took as a candidate. He was literally running to become president and falsified business records to hide an affair he had with Stormy Daniels to help himself in the upcoming election. So this Supreme Court ruling shouldn't apply. But on the other hand, Trump's team will argue that prosecutors built their case using evidence from Trump's time in the White House. Like, for example, checks that he signed while he was president. But under this new Supreme Court ruling, prosecutors aren't allowed to cite evidence involving official acts. Meaning if any evidence had even a tangential relationship to Trump's official position in office, then it can't be used, even if the crime at hand has nothing to do with official acts. So there is a world in which Trump's defense attorneys could convince a certain kind of judge to side with them. And after this week, I'm sure it's not exactly a stretch to trust me when I say that there are plenty of judges like that, and that Trump's team has a way of ending up in their courtrooms. All of which is to say, things are very much up in the air, all thanks to a Supreme Court whose job is to interpret the Constitution as written, and yet which instead decided to invent out of whole cloth entirely new provisions of what the Constitution actually says. I mean, think about this for a moment. These people parade themselves around as textualists and originalists, and yet they decided that a constitution that said quite literally nothing about presidential immunity for criminal activity somehow existed. To be clear, it doesn't. In fact, the Constitution does offer civil immunity for legislators through what's called speech and debate. So the fact that the framers put that in the Constitution and yet chose not to put anything about criminal immunity for presidents shows us by negative inference that the decision to do so was deliberate. This Supreme Court then overturned 200 plus years of precedent. And yet, on the opposite side of the coin, consider Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. There, the plain text of the Constitution says that no officeholder who, having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution, shall have engaged in insurrection against the same. Doesn't get clearer than that. And yet somehow, that was too ambiguous for this Supreme Court. They will ignore the obvious words in blind deference to their God King while creating out of whole cloth new provisions to shield him.
So, Larry, the ball is in the court of that New York judge. What do you think he's going to do?
I don't know. I hope he does what is right by the Constitution in our country. But I have no faith in anybody of any sort of power at this point. I think all of them are spineless to some degree. and they're not doing
All
what they
of
need
them.
to do. And here's the scary part. I know the Trump people are over there celebrating. They're up there celebrating. I've seen memes of people marching, and they're saying, "This is me marching to the ballot to vote for a convicted felon." I'm seeing these. I'm thinking to myself, that's just shameful. But here's the thing: let's not forget, what comes around goes around. And today,
you think so?
What today happened? What today? When people are thinking like, "Oh, this is great for Trump," and everyone's worried about what Trump is going to do with these expanded presidential powers. Let's not forget, Trump is 70-something years. He's not going to live forever. He's going to die. And at some point, there's going to be a struggle for power. And if we end up with somebody else in there somebody else who decides that they don't want to, let's just say Joe Biden wins. Let's say Joe Biden wins and not Trump. It's very likely. Let's not forget Joe Biden won the last election by like 7 million votes or something like that. It wasn't close like everybody wants to make it seem. It was kind of a landslide. But let's say that he wins and he has all these powers that allow him to do basically whatever he wants. He could simply say, there's too many shootings out there and there's too many mass shootings. Americans have not proven themselves responsible with guns. I am, as of today, outlawing the person, the private gun ownership. It just doesn't. The only people who can have guns in this country are going to be military and law enforcement officers. Anybody else who has a gun will be considered a felon, and you'll have 60 days to turn them in. And people who don't think that can happen, just look back at our history and see what they did when it came to gold ownership. We used to be
or Larry, prohibition.
Or prohibition. They said you couldn't have alcohol, but also too, when they decided they wanted to change our currency, the way our currency was pegged, they rounded up all the gold from people. People who said, you know what, this is a storage of value. I'm holding this. Nope, give that ish up. Give it up and change it in for your greenbacks. That's what's going to happen. So
they said the gold rush is over.
It could happen, and when it does, unless there's some concerted effort that's gonna allow people to stand up, which generally doesn't happen. Most people just want to be able to wake up, go to work, come home, kiss their family, and go back to sleep and wake up and do it again. Most people just want to live their life. And there are a lot of gun enthusiasts out there, but I don't know too many of them that are going to stand up against a tank when somebody rolls out a tank or armored vehicle on the block and says, I know for a fact that you have guns because we've seen them on your Instagram page. We've seen them on YouTube. We have seen you talk about them here and there. So you need to give them up before we come in and take them. I mean, it could happen. It could happen because, all the powers that the Republicans want to see on their end, if they don't end up as the ones in power, all the stuff that the Democrats want, they could shove that right down their throat. They can say, no, you don't get to own guns. No, you're going to be forced to recycle. You're going to be forced to drive an electric vehicle. No, you're not going to be able to work at a coal mine. We're shutting all coal mines down. You talk about all these powers and stuff that one man or woman could do in that office. And you think, well, I'll challenge this in the courts. The courts are slow. They are intentionally slow.
Exactly.
And you can say, well, I'm going to get a restraining order. The restraining orders are quick. The president can just simply say, I don't care what restraining order you have. This is a national security emergency, and I'm doing this as an official act. So even if later down the line it is viewed as criminal, guess what? I'm immune, and everybody who I've directed to follow my orders is also immune. That's what people don't understand. It's not just the president; it's everybody that's under him.
And you don't even get to bring the evidence against him in court.
No, you can't even bring evidence. It's like one of the things that we have in this court is that you have a right to face your accuser. Well,
Right.
they have thrown all that up in turmoil because the president could do all kinds of craziness, and then you can't even say he can say you're a traitor. Why am I a traitor? Well, you posted this terrible thing about me on Instagram that went viral, and people saw it, and I was embarrassed. I didn't like it. You're a traitor. Well, prove to me how I'm a traitor. Show me what I did that says I didn't just post something online that people found funny or liked or whatever. That something that was actually traitorous. I don't have to show any evidence. I'm locking you up as an official act. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds that you say it to people. You can hear. I hear myself, and people are like, "Come on, Larry, that's stupid. That's absurd. You sound like an idiot." But that's how ridiculous this is. That is how far off this is. Yeah. Is that when you think? I mean, that is because us as Americans, we think like that can't happen. That stuff happens in other countries all the time. I mean, what's his name? And what is the name in the Philippines? Maduro? Go over there. Go to the Philippines and talk some shit online and see if somebody doesn't show up at your door. You know, talk some crap to Putin in Russia and see if they don't show up or put some polonium in your underwear or something. It happens.
Well, Larry,
it just
this
doesn't
what I don't
happen
understand,
here.
Larry.
Yeah.
This is what I don't understand, Larry. The same people that love Trump used to hate Russia. Now all of a sudden they like Trump and they like Putin.
Love Russia. Yeah.
Help me understand this love of dictators all of a sudden. You like the dictator when they're supporting your causes. But what happens, as Larry has just eloquently put it, what happens when the dictator in office doesn't support your causes? He shows up to take your guns. He shows up to say, all you rich MFers, I'm taking all your money, giving it to the homeless people on the street. What happens? What do you do then?
Right.
What do you go? You going to go to war then?
Right.
I mean, what do you do? You got to think about this mess, man. You got to think of
what happens when they decide they want your property. What happens when you're up there, your family's been farming a piece of property for the last 200-300 years, and they decide that they want it because it sits next to a place, a chemical plant that they want to expand, or they found there's oil there, or natural gas, or shale, whatever. Or if they just or Trump decides he wants to build a golf course there. What happens when they decide they just want to take what is yours, rightfully yours,
and not pay you fairly for it? Just take it.
Or pay you, just take it. And then what do you do when you don't have any legal recourse? Because they say this is something that's done because of official presidential act. And then you say, and they say, well, you're going to have to go to court. And then you struggle. You try and get all the money you gather together you can to sue them in court. And they say, guess what? You can't even ask for evidence. You can't even demand. You have no right to discovery. There's no evidence that can be brought forth to show anything. You're just out of luck.
Right. So, Larry, now there's more to this deal. The overall deal is this Project 2025 bull jive. In essence, what this is, golly, this is a Republican's 900-page wish list that, because they didn't think Trump was going to win the last time, their asses is fully prepared this time with all this wish list far-right bull jive that they want to throw on America. And so that you guys can understand what's in it, let's take a listen to this.
Project 2025. You may have heard about it in the news, but I want to tell you about the dangerous reality of what it is. Trump's Project 2025 agenda isn't just another policy plan. It is a 900-page blueprint for an authoritarian takeover. But let's talk specifics. This agenda aims to strip away women's reproductive freedoms by implementing a nationwide abortion ban, even in cases of rape or incest. It would also defund Planned Parenthood and other organizations that provide essential health services to millions of women. On the border, Project 2025 includes draconian border policies that are designed to tear families apart. It seeks, for example, to reinstate family separations and implement mass deportations, which would turn our immigration system into an instrument of cruelty. Project 2025 calls for the rollback of environmental protections, dismantling our regulations that keep our air and water clean. It proposes opening up national parks and protected lands to oil drilling and mining, which would of course prioritize corporate profits over our planet's health. This agenda is all part of the broader goal of the GOP to mold the country into their Christo-fascist fever dream. They want to erase the separation between church and state, pushing for mandatory religious education in public schools, allowing businesses to discriminate based on religious beliefs, and implementing laws that undermine LGBT rights. This whole plan is a direct attack on our democracy, aiming to concentrate power in the hands of a few while stripping away the rights and protections of the many. So this November, let's make sure that Project 2025 never becomes a reality.
Larry, when you hear all that stuff, but yet you sit around and you see all these people who are for it, what do you think? You think they're uneducated? You think that it really can't happen? Because when we talk about Donald Trump, let's just be honest about it. A lot of people like him because he's a form of chaos. A lot of people like him because he supports the rich class. Then you've got people that like him because he could give a flying baby's crap about minorities and women.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got another group of people that like him because he says what he wants to say. There's no professional decorum. All this is wrapped up into what Trump stands for. And then you got dummies that think that being the president, you have to run the country like a business.
Yeah, the country is not a business.
No, it's not a business.
There's a reason why there is a profession of politics and a profession of business. There are two different things distinctively.
There are two different things. And so when you hear people signing up for this Project 2025, Larry, what does it make you feel? What does it invoke in you?
I mean, nothing. I mean, I fully expect this is not a surprise in any way, shape, or form. This is what this is what people like Stephen Miller have been talking about for a long time. This is what they want. There's people like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and those folks. This is what they have been after. I mean, and these are not. I know it's easy to discount them when you look at people up there like Steve Bannon, who's super crusty and looks like he's basically gonna just disintegrate into a big ball of dandruff and flaky skin. But this man is not dumb. You look at someone like Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is an attorney. He's a barred attorney. He is not a dumb person. He's a self-hating Jew.
Went to Duke University.
He's a Jewish man who hates himself and his people, but I mean that's a separate thing. I mean,
that's Larry. That's no different
like having those like that. I mean,
that's no different from Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, Clarence Thomas is he's so disturbing.
I didn't mean to get you off track. I was just helping with your analogy.
He's so disturbing in so many ways because, I mean, he is the epitome or the embodiment of the word sellout, and I say that not being like hyperbolic, like he's not for black people, so he must be a sellout. No, I mean an actual sellout, as in he is taking money and favor and perks and privileges for doing something that he should not be doing. I mean, he's truly selling out. He is a government official who should take his salary and live his life according to that. But instead, he's finding it a great time to hang out with billionaires and go on fancy trips and do all. He's literally selling out his position. And I think that I would say that history is going to write him terribly, but I just don't know yet, because as we know, history is written by the victors. And so we don't know who's going to come out on top and how this is going to work out. I know that it's going to be considerably harder considering this Supreme Court justice ruling that just came down. It's going to be harder for people all over, because when you start looking at cases that come forward and they have gerrymandering, and maybe the president just says, you know what, I'm going to rewrite this district, and they can say, you can't do that. And he's going to say, who's going to tell me I can't? It's an official duty. It's an official act. Who's going to stop him? If he goes down south and he rewrites handwrite some friggin' district in Mississippi, and they have to go to some federal judge in Mississippi that it's going to be a Trump appointee or some other Republican, who's going to stop him? I mean, he's going to say, I mean, there's so many things that can go horribly wrong with this ruling, the way they rule. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just, I'll be honest with you. This is the way I've been saying this for a long time. And I will say this even more. If you don't have one now, go get your passport.
Hold on just a second, Larry. I was going to get to that. So I was going to ask you, Larry, before we get out of here, we always like to end on helping people take action. So as Black Americans, Larry, give us your list of things Black Americans should be doing besides voting. You definitely got to vote, and vote Democrat. I'm not with this, just go vote. No, vote Democrat to at least be a Band-Aid on the Trump train. What other actions can Black Americans do to ensure that we get to continue to have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and protect ourselves, Brother Larry?
One thing is to, and I say this, I'm not doing it personally, but it's always hesitant to tell someone else to do something I'm not doing, but get involved in local politics. I mean, that is 100%. One of the most important things. Get 100%. Involved in local politics. Run for especially if you're talking about local politics, run for sheriff. Get people in there that think like you, that believe things that you believe, that have your world vision and your worldview in there in positions that are going to be mayors, sheriff's officers. Get them in there so they can be police, chiefs of police. You want people in there at the local level, because although politics on the national level and the state level can come down and can have all kinds of things happen, if you have noticed, there are places all over the country, and oftentimes people think of the big cities. They think of the LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos and the DCs and and all these other, the Miamis and these other big cities. But a lot of the rest of the country is made up of these little fiefdoms, these little pockets here and there. And I say little relatively, where you may have 100 or 200,000 people, or 50,000 or 80,000 or 30,000 people, these little fiefdoms where people can control everything. They control the school boards. They control they control the local law enforcement. They control all the money from the city council. They control all that. And so if you're the one, if you can run to be able to have people out, support people who are local judges, because a lot of people think, they don't know that a lot of the judges out there are elected, and you want people out there who think like you, who believe what you believe, have your worldview. You don't want people out there who are going to convict you and send you or your kids or your family members to jail for God knows how many years over some BS. So you really want, yes, the national stuff is vitally important, but more so even is the locals, because local people can do all kinds of really great stuff and a lot of really, really terrible stuff that can fly completely under the radar from the state and the feds for decades. And you could be there either gloriously benefiting from it or suffering from it forever without anybody knowing or willing to do anything about it. So think locally.
To Larry's point, that was absolutely one of the things I was going to say. And I'll even take it further. You don't have to be a police officer, fireman, all that. Every city, even small towns, they have their mayor, they have their city council members, some people call them aldermans, and their mayor. Each one of these cities has subcommittees and boards you can get on to learn how things go in a government system. And these subcommittees and boards pass things for the financial good of those said cities. I'm on 3 of those. And while I'm doing those, I'm affecting my community. I'm I'm the only Black person in the group. So when we go out to different schools and things like that, I'm bombarded with questions, blah, blah, blah. And also, it's another stepping stone if you want to go up in politics. When people get to know you on those boards and subcommittees, if you decide you want to go and run for an alderman or a city council, you're already known. So you have to get involved. The other thing I would say, Black Americans, of course, vote, but do whatever you can to take control of your financial situation. So that, back to Larry's original point that I was going to say too, put yourself in position if you feel like you need to bounce and leave the country, go to Canada, you can. Or some other place, you can be in position to go and stay if you feel like this country is getting to be too much for you. If we get another Trump and all them in office, they're not going to give us 40 acres and a mule or its equivalent. You're going to have to do that shit yourself. The only people that's getting all these riches and fun stuff are the rich people who don't need it in the first place. So,
and they're talking about getting rid of agencies like the Department of Education. And for all of you out there,
Justice too.
And for all of you who don't understand what that means, all those people out there that are getting student loans, Pell grants, all the financial, all the financial resources and support that you get so that you can send your kids to college or you can go to college yourself. They're talking about trying to get rid of the agency that manages all that. So they may just simply say we have to stop the student loan program because there's no one to manage it. Right. I mean, America has already fallen behind, a lot of other countries in so many areas because people are not able to go to school at the same rate that other countries are because of the cost. And if they get rid of the Department of Education, our country, our economy is going to suffer as a consequence. And I just, it's one of those things. But my original point was, get your passport ready, because if things go to hell and you want to bounce, you want to be able to leave. And I can tell you right now, if you just look back in history at the times, and I say recent history, in the last 100 years or so, when people found themselves in positions where they needed to leave, the people who got out early were the ones that were okay. When you look at places like Nazi Germany, people who saw the writing on the wall and said, you know what? I'm not sticking around to find out what happens. I'm out. Those people were able to move. Many of them were able to come to America. They went to other places in Europe. They were able to go to South America. They were able to move and go to places that were willing to accept them, because at the time they didn't have, 50, 100,000, 200,000, 1 million people flooding, trying to come in all at once. They didn't have that. It was a slow trickle in the beginning. So if you get out early, you're cool. You get there, you get settled, you're good to go. And it makes it easier if you need to bring family over at the time. And people who don't understand that, I think it was a cruise ship, actually, like a luxury liner that came over here to the United States, came over, I believe it was in one of those ports in New York, filled with Jews from Nazi Germany. And we said, no, we're not taking them. There's too many of them. We would not let those people disembark from the boat. And we sent them back to Germany. And those people ended up in concentration camps. And so when I say get your passports, and if you see the writing on the wall and you need to get out early, then getting on, And I mean, this is a landmass. It's going to be here. If there's something to come back to, you can come back to it later. And if you decide you don't want to come back to it, you can be somewhere else and live your life. Get on Duolingo and learn a new language and meet some new friends, I mean, just don't find yourself stuck here suffering unnecessarily.
Yep. And we will get out of here by giving you guys, I hate to do this, Larry, but I think people need to understand this, a re-education on how one of the world's most evil people, dictator Hitler, got in office. Larry, here are the things that got this man in office. Charismatic leadership. He taught the people in plain English. He got in there, Larry. He reorganized. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, German. He reorganized the Nazi Party. Larry, are we not seeing a reorganization of the grand old party here in America? Okay.
Yeah.
He had an economic depression, of which he was able to put people against people with grievances. We just had COVID. People against people with grievances. Effective propaganda, Larry. Hitler and the Nazi Party used propaganda led by figures like Joseph Goebbels, which was highly effective in spreading their ideology, discrediting opponents and offices in the government. Where are we seeing that at, Larry? Okay.
Yeah.
Political maneuvering. Through strategic alliances and political maneuvering, the Nazi Party and Hitler gained significant representation in the German parliament. We're already seeing that with Trump. Appointment of chancellors. In January 1933, Hitler appointed several chancellors in Germany to do the bidding of the Nazi Party. What are we seeing with judges, Larry? Who appointed all these damn Supreme Court judges? Okay.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Larry, the Enabling Act. In March 1933, the Enabling Act was passed, giving Hitler dictatorial powers and essentially making the end of the Weimar Republic and the beginning of the Nazi dictatorship. What did we just see with the Supreme Court, Larry?
Yeah.
Almost immunity for a president, giving him dictatorial powers. And after that, Larry, we went into war against Hitler.
And here's the thing that people should understand, that Americans should understand, is that the Germans at that time, they believed that they were superior. They believed that they were a superior people, a superior race, a superior being, and they felt that they should be able to rule all of the world. And it took the world to bring them to heel.
Right.
And I can only imagine. I mean, there's a lot of hate out there for America. There's a lot of people out there that would want the opportunity to bring us to heel.
Right.
And I can tell you right now, I mean, sure, if we decide we're just going to nuke the whole world and just level everything so that this place is a wasteland, sure, we could do that. Russia could do that. China could do that. France, Germany, a whole bunch of nuclear powers could basically just level the whole world if we wanted to.
Right.
But I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to bring us to heel. And all it's going to take is for someone to say, we have the opportunity now because America has completely gone off the rails. And I just, I don't want us to end up going to war over some silliness, or putting ourselves in a position where we end up having to go to war. It's just, all I can say is, folks, is that you don't have to like Joe Biden. You don't have to love Joe Biden. But right now, you're talking about voting between the lesser of two evils, if that's the way you want to think about it, and he is the lesser. And think about it, all the people out there that are thinking that Joe Biden is terrible and he doesn't have his mind and all. Think about it like this: you won't have to deal with Joe Biden very long. If he gets reelected, maybe Kamala Harris comes in and she's there for the rest of the time. You don't have to deal with him very long,
right.
But
And Kamala Harris is more than competent to do the job.
But if you vote for Trump, you might have to deal with Trump until he dies. Trump has already said he feels he should be able to serve a second term consecutively because he feels he was cheated out of this. Our Constitution allows for a president to serve 2 terms, but Trump somehow interpreted that in his mind that a president can serve 2 terms consecutively. And if he wasn't, now he feels like he should be able to not only serve this term, but then to run again a 3rd time and serve another term so he can get his 2 terms consecutively, which would make him a 3-term president, which is something we haven't had since Roosevelt. And something our Constitution does not allow for. So I mean, the dude has already said a number of times what he wants to do. And as we know, when people that say when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Believe them. They are telling you. They're not sitting there saying, hey, you know, this is all fun and games and jokes. No, he's telling you he wants to be a dictator. He's telling you that he plans on throwing the Constitution to the side so he can continue to stay in power. He's telling you these things. Believe him.
Right. So, Larry, I want to thank, we almost got 100 people, Larry, for politics on a Tuesday night. And if you guys like what we did, you can continue to support shoplifegains.com. That's my website. I still have that Jasmine Crockett shirt in there, the B to the sixth power. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. There's some Trump shirts in there with his mug shot. There's some other gear in there. You can go check it out. I'm on TikTok, but I'm about to start a new TikTok because TikTok has now shadow banned me right when I was about to hit 10,000 subscribers, but it's all good. And be sure to go and download the L Podcast, and you can follow me on Instagram too. That's me. Larry, what's going on your channel over the coming holiday? What you got planned for the people?
Oh man, just more tech stuff. I have a couple of lenses I'm going to be reviewing, so you guys will probably see some photography popping up on my Insta, and you know, some videos showing up. I've been playing with some of this AI stuff, so I have some tutorials and just some place showing people some websites to visit to check stuff out. So, you know, just basic stuff, some good stuff, some fun stuff. But you know, as many people may have known, I don't know how many of you guys pay attention to it if you're not actual creators. If you guys are consumers of content, that's great. But if you're a creator of content as well, some of you may have noticed that people on YouTube have really been struggling. YouTube has, for somehow or some way or for some reason, has toyed with the algorithm as such that people are not making the money that they used to make on YouTube. And a lot of people who built businesses and built lives and have hired people have been having to let people go, and they've had to restructure their businesses, their organizations, and their channels. And so for me, because I'm not making nearly the amount, I'm making probably 10% of the money I was making before. Now I'm just kind of throwing stuff up there that I feel like if I feel like making a video about a pair of shoes, I make a video about a pair of shoes. If I feel like making a video about a blender, I make a video about a blender. If I feel like walking and talking on the street and just yipping, yapping and talking about whatever, I'm doing that too. I basically don't really care what YouTube thinks about my channel in the algorithm because they're not really paying me anything. They're not paying me enough to care about what they think about my channel in the algorithm. So I'm just not, I'm putting in the effort to put out content. I'm just doing what I want to do. I'm kind of gone back to the original intent of my channel, which is today I feel like doing whatever in the hell it is I feel like and putting it up on YouTube. And if YouTube doesn't know where to put it and they don't know how to feed it, I don't really care because they weren't doing it anyways.
Wow. Enough said, y'all. Drop the mic on that. Please be sure to go and check out my financial channel. The link is right here below my chin. Life Gains Family Fun Finance, and you can get there at Life Gains Reviews. Sometime this weekend, I'm going to get this full review of Jamaica, what we did, how much it cost, what deal sites I went to, what deal resorts I went to, food reviews, all that stuff is going to be up there. Go check us out. Like Larry, I feel the same way he felt about how they've been toying around with the algorithm and that type of thing. But more so, ladies and gentlemen, I've been feeling something in me that I need to be giving more to people on YouTube and the experiences I've gone through to put myself and my family in a okay position. We could be doing better, but I'm not complaining about where we're at. And I did that through living way below my means, finding deals. And every time I could save some money, I invested it in the right places: stocks, real estate, artwork. And I want to show you guys how to do that. I've helped a bunch of you from COVID till now, but I didn't really put it on. I didn't really stick with it as long as I should have for growth, because YouTube gets on my nerves sometimes too. But thankfully, I've got other ways I'm doing things so I don't have to rely on that. So like Larry said, I'm going to start putting stuff up there that I like too on the Family Fun Finance channel. Things that can really help give back, practical stuff that people can put in place the very same day. And we'll do some fun stuff, some family food tour reviews, some family restaurant reviews. I've got some toys and things like that I bought for my daughter. I've got some fun, cheap places you can take children to have fun. Because when you have children, let me tell you something, life becomes different. And with everything we're going through with inflation, the price goes up really, really fast and drops down like a feather, taking forever. I think it's important that I start putting this voice back out there. So that's what I'll be doing. So be sure to subscribe. Me and Larry, we out till we do our next politics video, which will be next week. Check us out. Till that video, we out.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.